Meghan and Harry's empty empire hits rocks. Signs of incompetence Sussex has been warned for a long time. Have the Sussexes ever thought of the fact that maybe they themselves are the cause of their empty empire? Are they still convinced that all the people telling them they have messed up and failed to meet the demands of the market wrong? Why would the heads of Spotify and Netflix be jealous of the two of them? Come to think of it, how could they believe that any of the companies who decided they didn't want to get involved with the two of them be jealous of them? The truth is, marketplace decisions are never based on jealousy. Instead, an empire is made up of highly marketable goods or services. At the very least, all companies need reliable sources for products or services, and they need good turnaround. They need it to be quick. They want profit. And if profit is not immediate, then companies want to be seen as providing the public with something that it wants so much that covering their startup costs sometime down the road is not going to be a big issue. Bottom line is this: Meghan and Harry are trying to blame other people for their own inability to meet the bottom line in the marketplace. That is, providing profitable goods or services that people actually want in a timely way. Each of Meghan and Harry's attempts to create a money-making empire has been judged on its merits, and it's completely failed. They have not been able to timely produce the products needed, or even make a profit, or even expect a future profit. And Meghan and Harry blaming that on the jealousy of other people is simply a method of deferring blame. They cannot accept failure. It's pretty difficult for anybody to accept blame for failure, but for some people, like Meghan and Harry, it's basically impossible. And if people do not just believe their explanation that their failure is all because of jealousy or maliciousness, then they're going to continue to claim any other possible cause than themselves. That is just the way they do things. There were company representatives who really bought into this idea that they had two big names, two royal names, and they sold them the idea that they could make them a lot of money. And now not only are they disappointed, but they're pretty pissed off. And so now these company reps are sending out warning signals to other companies, and that is not because of jealousy. In fact, they're just trying to let other people know that they were taken in by the grifters and that maybe other companies need to watch out. And that is enough to kill Meghan and Harry's empire. There's actually only one difference. Do you know what it is? And I'm not talking about Doria traveling in cars next to Meghan. And it's not Sunshine Sachs anymore either. Kaylee from Sunshine Sachs actually went to their wedding. Meghan kept the marketing team who were building websites and trying to make deals, in case people forget. They had a website that sold that. It simply didn't work out. They did public speaking because they're such superstars. Of course, who wouldn't want to hear them speak, but they only got one engagement. Harry doesn't have any friends, and he cannot make introductions, so corruption simply was not available to the two of them. Now, public speaking is basically just organized corruption, where politicians are given kickbacks for services rendered, or in the case of Tony Blair, it's as introductions to sovereign wealth funds and very high-worth people. I mean, you could easily have Dave Chappelle or Prince Harry for an after-dinner speech. Then Sunshine told us about the megabucks ambassador roles, the millions from social media. Every faux pas was another big deal. And then it dried up. And all of a sudden, it was just racists and haters. 4 years later, no more Sunshine Sachs, a new PR agency instead. Same old playbook, though. So let's take a look at what they did. One single speech was $100,000. A lot of clothing tie-ins, too, like that baby-to-baby photo shoot, for example. Well, they flew in on a private jet, as they always do, because Meghan doesn't like to sit in traffic, and they had their new photographer with them. Depending on which Twitter post you believe, they stayed for a total of between 9 and 11 minutes. And then there was the post from the photographer and publication tie-in selling the designer gear. But that wasn't enough because it didn't sell. And then there was the candles / furniture / everything in their work broadcast from their home. Well, of course, that didn't sell either. And a drink that Meghan couldn't really promote because she doesn't have social media, so she got Oprah to promote it instead. But again, it didn't sell. And then she did that voiceover work for Disney. Now, Bob gave them $3.5 million that they were supposed to donate to the elephant charity in Africa, but they decided to keep it instead. They were looking very sketchy on the income front, which I've been talking about for at least 2 years now. So let's take a look at the outgoings. $7.8 million a year in PR, $8.2 million a year for the security service that was recommended by Oprah, $8.5 million a year in legal expenses. And if we include the private jets and the hotels and the staff, we're looking at somewhere around $27 to $30 million in outgoings. Note the security service included vehicle transportation as well. So this means we are looking at somewhere around $40 to $45 million in income per year to maintain that lifestyle when we include taxes. Now, you might pay more taxes than them, actually. As you can see, there is a big difference here, and it's a worrying difference. Now, the Netflix deal is simply a development deal. They were, as it says in their accounts, not paid $80 million. In fact, they only generated $9.8 million in 18 months. They weren't actually paid for the Oprah interview or the Netflix docuseries, only producer fees. Now, Harry's book deal was $30 million for 3 books, but it's an advanced structure, and it means that he's probably required to pay some of that $10 million back. And Spotify, maybe they got around $10 million at most. As you can see, the numbers are not really adding up. So what's the result? Well, no more Sunshine Sacks, and they had to fire most of their staff too. No more private jets for Harry. Meghan, of course, is still going to fly private though. So what empire? There's no social media platform, there's no product, no companies, no sponsorship, no brand ambassadorships, no real content created. 4 years ago, it was simply jealousy and throwing stones, and now the playbook is exactly the same and incredibly boring. I did check the Elephant Charity, and they still haven't gotten a dime. The outstanding £120,000 from the UK charity still has not been paid back. Over a year's rent, actually, is still owed on Frogmore, so no wonder they were kicked out. Meghan and Harry are obviously grifters, and they simply are not capable of the kind of self-awareness to understand why they have turned off the public with their victimhood stories, all their whining, their arrogance, their greed. Easier to just chalk it up to people being jealous of them. They are not willing to take a look at their own poor behavior. They imagine themselves as so much better than everybody else, but it's too bad that attitude does nothing to pay the bills. Their biggest problem is that they will never accept that everything is their fault. They're so obsessed with this idea that nothing's their fault. The whole world, and especially Harry's family, is so jealous of how amazing the two of them are, and they're the ones plotting to ruin their perfect plans. Meghan wants to be the most famous person in the world, but unfortunately for her, she simply lacks the personal attributes to pull that off. Her empire is a house of cards. Meghan talks about being this big philanthropist, but she does nothing about it. She's going to be exposed for the empty person that she really is. The behavior of Meghan and Harry cannot stand up to the scrutiny of anybody who applies logic to their situation. And those are the people who are collapsing their house of cards. So it looks like now Meghan and Harry are going for broke. And here's the thing, Charles is now the king, and William's in charge of the Duchy of Cornwall. I can see how the purse strings from the UK to those idiots in California could suddenly dry up. Oh no, Prince William wouldn't do that, would he? It was definitely set up in a bizarre way. Now, Charles is very smart when it comes to property. He doesn't even own Highgrove, and he doesn't like wasting money one little bit. And Harry is not entitled to any of that money. He's not a working royal. He has to rely on his inheritance money, end of story, and that is not going to be enough to keep Meghan in the lifestyle that she wants. And you, do you agree with me? Please tell me your opinion below in the comments. If you think my video is useful, don't be afraid to like and share it with your friends and relatives who would enjoy it anytime you want. And don't be afraid to click the subscribe button to get more updates in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in, have a lovely weekend, and we'll be back to see you all tomorrow.